So we open up to this guy, Sam. He's performing in a bar by the sea with these three women. We find out that the bar is actually owned by his father and was his mother's idea. Over the years, it hasn't been doing too well though. Alright, so we cut to this guy, Richard. He's vibing, talking to some girls, just having an overall good time. After the show and a good night, he heads out. On his way home, he hears a beautiful voice singing an enchanting song. He goes into the sea to find the voice seemingly entranced. Richard drowns. Alright, back to Sam and his pops. His dad shows him the meager change they earned today and tells them they should probably sell the bar. Sam says, nah man. He says there are too many memories of the bar, especially those of his mother. Sam heads out and hears the enchanting song, but he doesn't really seem to care much for it and heads home. Sam is walking into his apartment when his neighbor Rosie comes out to check on him. She's worried about him because he's been depressed since his mother passed and is always alone. Sam tells her he's good and heads inside. We can see that he spends most of his time looking at a book that was a memento from his mother. It's a book called Dreamers. The next day, Sam heads back to the bar and finds out his dad sold it. Sam gets really upset and begins yelling at his father. He then leaves. Once outside, he finds a mermaid. Oh, that was easy. He thinks she's in a costume but isn't too worried about that at the moment because she ain't looking so good. He checks on her and immediately begins driving her on his rickshaw to a hospital. At the hospital, we meet Dr. Victor and Dr. Mara Lee. They're a couple and seem pretty in love. They're having a child and begin speaking about the child when Mara Lee gets a call to return inside because she has a patient. She heads inside just as Sam and the mermaid arrive at the hospital. He quickly rushes inside. Victor checks out the rickshaw and sees the mermaid. He begins going full doctor mode to make sure she's okay. Just then, the mermaid begins singing her enchanting song and Victor begins passing out. Sam is asked for his insurance card before the doctors can do their job saving someone's life, which, well, is pretty realistic. He forgot it at home, so he rushes outside. He leaves in such a hurry he forgets his diary on the counter. He begins heading home since she can't be treated without insurance and was in such a hurry some scales were left behind. Meanwhile, Dr. Victor is being rushed in the hospital and he ain't looking so good. He continuously sings the song he heard while his pulse rapidly increases. He's being treated on the operating table and his heart bursts. They try to revive him to no avail. Sam is rushing the mermaid inside his house while Rosie spies on him through her peephole. Sam takes her into his bath and the mermaid suddenly regains consciousness. She begins singing her enchanting song but quickly realizes it has no effect on Sam. He begins singing her tune back to her. He makes her some food and the two begin to eat and chop it up. She says her name is Linda and she will die if she isn't back in the sea in 2 days. He tells her she got washed up on shore because there have been really big waves as of late. The waves are also what broke her fin, so if he did bring her back in the water, she wouldn't be able to swim anyway. He tells her that he will bring her back to sea once she's treated. Linda asks if he has any love in his heart, due to him still being alive after she sang her melody. Whenever she sings it to someone, they become entranced and die due to the power of love. She says it is a way to protect herself and it's automatic and uncontrollable. He tells her he was in love with someone a few years ago, but after she left, he started feeling very alone and hates the word love. Dr. Mary Lee listens to the postpartum report of her husband Victor. They tell her there were many traces of nitrogen in his blood and basically a bunch of gases you can find in the sea. She heads over to reception and picks up Sam's diary. She then heads outside and finds blue blood and scales on the floor. Back to Sam and Linda. He tells her to chill at his crib and stay super quiet as he goes back to the hospital to get his diary. Once he leaves, Rosie enters his house using a spare key and begins hanging out with Linda. She tells her the story of Sam, how his mom died at a young age and how his lover broke his heart. Linda seems to be more into Sam after this revelation because women love broken men, even mermaids. It also seems that Linda lost her mother as well at a young age. She also curiously lights up a cigarette because Rosie forgot it as she left. It turns out Sam couldn't find the diary, so he heads back to his pop's bar and they talk a bit. He then gets a call that his house is on fire. It turns out Linda lit the place up on accident due to the cigarette. Unlucky. He immediately rushes back to his crib. A firefighter beat him to his house, thankfully, and unthankfully starts hearing a really nice song. Boom, he dies. Linda was singing the song because she was scared while hiding in another room. Sam makes it to her passed out from the smoke and saves her. He brings Linda to Rosie's house and says she'll be staying here for a bit. Alright, let's see what Dr. Mara Lee is up to. She finds out that the blood she found was of a creature unknown to man. Alright, that's enough of Mara Lee. Back to Sam, who's worried about Linda as she regains consciousness. Linda's a little worried about Sam in turn, as she fears that he might be falling in love with her. She tells him he can't fall in love with her as her song will kill him. He tells her not to worry, girl, ain't nobody in love with you. If he was in love, he'd know it. He then feels a twinge in his heart. She says when people feel a twinge in their heart, they're in love. And he says, nah, it's good. Linda, knowing that Sam probably loves her, wants to leave back to the ocean as soon as possible. Sam says, all right, but let's hang out first. He begins singing songs to her and she joins in, they sing, they're happy, and get ready to go out to a bar. Dr. Merrilee, doing a bunch of investigation work on her Scooby-Doo ting, works to track them down to said bar. Sam tells people that Linda lost her legs in an accident and due to her interest in Mermaid is wearing a mermaid costume, which, well, is pretty clever. Sam's dad comes by and is super happy to see him with the girl. The two are having a good time until Linda tells him that she's the last mermaid as her mother was killed by a group of sailors. Mermaids were given powers to save themselves through the power of song and can also learn any language with ease. Sam and Linda continue to have a good time and he decides to show her his mother's artwork. This makes her further believe that Sam is in love with her, and before he even knows it himself, he will for sure die. Sam is on his way back to Rosie's place with some gifts for Linda. Meanwhile, back at Rosie's place, Linda tells Rosie that she must leave before Sam gets back, as if he gets any closer to her, he will for sure die. She begins crying pearls due to the realization that she will have to leave Sam. When Sam arrives at Rosie's place, he finds Dr. Merrilee. He begins looking around for Linda and starts to panic when he can't find her. Dr. Merrilee tells him to calm down and that Linda is in a safe facility. He doesn't calm down and has a heart attack. Unlucky. Merrilee takes Sam to her lab and begins researching Linda. She says she's going to dissect her, most likely still upset at the fact that she killed her husband. Her colleague tells her to chill as they found a living mermaid. It would be insane to kill her. She's quite unique. Merrilee says, nah, I think I'm going to kill her. Boom, her colleague begins fighting her for the needle she was going to use to kill her. Dr. Merrilee cuts herself with the needle and oh, we have a spy, it's Rosie. She takes Dr. Merrilee to the emergency room as well. She's probably gonna die with the needle's contents now floating through her bloodstream. As the second day is about to begin, Linda starts getting sick. Sam isn't looking too hot either, but he's determined to take Linda back to the ocean. Linda starts telling Sam how in love with him she is as he picks her up with the help of Rosie to save her. The two are madly in love, but know they must be separated. Sam is almost to the sea with his rickshaw. He staggers his way down to the sea and is able to let Linda go free. As he does this, he has a heart attack. Dr. Merrilee, who was chasing them, then heads down to the ocean and sees the dying Sam. She sees her husband Victor in him and decides to save him. A few days later, we see that Sam is doing better while he looks at the pearl tears that he found. He sells the pearls, saves his dad's bar, and buys a boat. He uses the boat to search for Linda, not caring about what happens to himself. And that's where the movie ends, him searching for his love. Yes, that's the end of our show, ladies and gentlemen. If you liked the recap, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button for more videos like this one. Take care.